This Memorial Day weekend, social engineers want to feed you canine manure and tell you it's chocolate ice cream. But I'm here to dispel that. Diddle Island today. Barry Diller's little, I'm sure, tax-exempt project here. We never really dug too deeply into the financials of this thing, but it is quite weird. Now wait, this looks like a new section. Let's take a look. So, I was gonna go over to the Intrepid, that aircraft carrier that they've made a museum. But it's, you know, once you start getting into making videos inside of the museum, I don't think they want you to do that. Yeah, I think this is a new peak. I don't remember this being open before. There's the amphitheater over there. I mean, if people haven't seen this, it is an impressive, you know, little recreational park, almost like a Disneyland feature or something in the middle of New York City with some crazy hypnotic stuff. I guess we can't see the Intrepid from over here, but that's fine. People know what aircraft carriers work for. I want to talk about this person, Julie Lewis, again, not because she's of any consequence personally, but because of what she's done over the past, you know, 4 or 5 days, maybe the last week. It was a big and important week in that 1.5 million people, more than 1.5 million people, are now aware that Norm Eisen is a scumbag affiliated with the Lawfare Institute, the Brookings Institution, and definitely affiliated with this hoax. It's not just this, it's the entire Get Trump effort from the moment it began when he was campaigning through his first term as president, now, and with these ridiculous criminal charges. And then what the hell is stupid Joe Biden gonna say? Some people have sort of, you know, predicted that he's gonna offer to pardon Trump. Now that would create an interesting political, it's almost like a Mr. Beast show where you have some opportunity to, you know, select something crazy. But I don't think that Trump would go for that because he'd be admitting, you know, oh yeah, I'm guilty in this thing, so pardon me. I think he would reject that and rightly say that this is a process that's been corrupted by individuals like Norm Eisen, like Andrew Weissman, and very important in all of this is Valerie Caproni. I've been speaking about her for a long time, not because I claim to be a patriot or a truth teller or a genius or a prognosticator. I am just a guy who's trying to make my way in this world and earn a living without bothering anybody else too much, kind of minding my own business and asking that people do the same to me. And when I see thieves and liars destroying the place, I kind of want to say something about it. So what this Julie Lewis person has done that's of interest here is she got very interested in Felix Sater. Now, a lot of people are like, all right, let's cut through all the noise. I don't care about Felix Sater. And that's fine. I get it. You are free to not care. I'm not telling anybody what to care about. I'm not telling anybody to, hey, listen to me, trust me. This is all true. Here it is stated as a fact. I'm just laying out the facts as I see them, the evidence that has brought me to the conclusions I'm talking about relative to these facts. And I always say, everyone is free to make their own determination. I'm looking at this evidence and drawing conclusions. You might come to other conclusions. People have told me in the comments, are you sure you're not a lawyer? You talk like a lawyer. I'm definitely not a lawyer, but I've been put through the lawfare ringer for the past 7 years, so I know a lot about lawfare. I am a counter lawfare practitioner. This is, so for people who aren't aware of this or haven't seen it, this is actually called Little Island, but because it's, you know, created by, or the big guy kind of behind this is Barry Diller, very questionable character who's certainly linked to all these political types that we're talking about. Chelsea Clinton was on the board of his company. What is his company called again? IAC Interactive Corporation. That thing owned Vimeo and maybe Match, or what's the one? Tinder. It owned all that stuff. It used to throw me off of Vimeo quite a lot. That's another reason why I always encourage people to subscribe on odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth. It's totally free, but you can also sponsor the show on there by becoming a member. And by becoming a member on Odyssey, it eliminates the need for me to use Vimeo. These other platforms, which I also really like, particularly subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth, they're great. The only shortcoming for me is that those things are not video hosting platforms, and so I have to have Vimeo involved in there. Barry Diller gets money, and then he can make these little islands. I call it Diddle Island because of Barry Diller and his the Gawker article talking about his sexy all-boy, was it Thanksgiving or Christmas? I don't remember. But he's a strange character, and definitely subscribing on Odyssey is the most economical way for you. Only $3 a month plus a 58-cent Odyssey fee. It's more economical for me, and there's something about it that makes it more difficult for the stupid Mario brothers to delete my videos and cancel my videos. This is a huge effort to suppress information. That is what these social engineers are doing. And thank you again to all the new viewers and subscribers on this channel. I know a lot of people saw that video where I was calling out Norm Eisen for basically putting Michael Cohen up to paying Stormy Daniels and concocting this whole crazy, born out of the mind of a lawyer story to entrap Trump in what they are, this is the squarest legal peg ever jammed into a round hole to try to get Trump convicted for paying a lawyer for a legal expense when the lawyer set up this whole sham. And then now, I don't know what's going on. They said that Merchan is not releasing the jury instructions, but then somebody had the jury instructions, and Greta Van Susteren was commenting that they've instructed the jury that they don't need to be unanimous on something that the law says the jury does need to be unanimous on. And the concept of a judge doing something totally outside the law, while it might seem strange to some, this has been my entire career going through the U.S. District Court and mostly dealing with Valerie Caproni, and people appear to be her, I don't know, acolytes, friends, associates, partners in this whole lawfare endeavor. So let's go back to Julie, because it's super interesting that right away, while she was busily trying to tell people, don't listen to this guy, and counteract every single thing that I said, none of which has been untrue so far. There's not one thing that she's brought up where I have said, oh, you know what, you're right, that was a mistake or an inaccuracy, or I didn't know that. Nothing that she has said like that. So I want to talk about some of the techniques that these social engineers use, because my goal is to help people understand what they're looking at, not to give you a message and force it down your throat and tell you this is the truth, you have to believe this, don't listen to these other people. Go look at Julie. She's Hunter's mama, 7 on X. And actually, but let's talk a little bit about what she was doing, because here's the thing. Everybody knows I'm Jason Goodman, even though it says JG at CSTT. That's only happening because I've been canceled on these different platforms so many friggin' times. It's like impossible for me to keep any, that's why we're on Crowdsource the Truth 10 and 11, because all the people that I'm talking to you about right now are so fixated on destroying my ability to broadcast. Is that because I'm lying and I'm grifting, or is that because I'm telling things that are getting us closer to the truth? Again, I don't want anybody to come here, see Crowdsource the Truth and think, oh, this guy's got the truth, and I'm confusing crowdsourcing with crowdfunding, and so everybody's got to send me money to hear the truth. That is not what I'm saying. crowdsourcing refers to the technique in investigative journalism that I employ. I never went to journalism school, just like I never went to law school. And I did go to film school, but they didn't really teach me too much. I shouldn't say that. I guess they did. But if my cousin's kid, she actually did go to film school, not NYU, but they were talking about it and she was gonna go to film school, and I was like, that's a mistake, particularly if you're not going to go to NYU or USC or UCLA. And I say that not because those schools are better, but because the relationships that you can make. I mean, you're getting, and I don't even know if this is true. It's been 30 years since I've been to college, but at the time that I went, and looking back, the value was in the relationships that were made with people that are in that industry. As far as what you learn, I don't know. I mean, you can. These colleges have resources, things like cameras and stuff. But again, right now, compared to when I was in NYU, when I went into film school in 1990, that guy just almost crashed into my camera. Just even being able to make a motion picture. Oh man, this is a treacherous moment. This has come loose. Let's see if we can fix this without ending the broadcast. Yeah, there we go. So they don't teach you that in film school. What I'm getting at is in 1990, to make a narrative motion picture, there were things that you needed that were insanely expensive. Cameras, film, editing equipment, sound equipment. You couldn't really easily get that. But now, just even with this phone, you've got 4K video. I tell you, I sometimes look at stuff shot on 16 and even 8mm film. And if you get into there's even raw recording modes on iPhones now, it just looks better. I mean, my point is, if you're a creative young person who wants to do something in 2024, I say just do it. College has become essentially irrelevant. I learned all this stuff that I know about writing legal pleadings and defending myself as a pro se defendant in court from watching law lectures on YouTube and LSAT prep courses, and not going and paying for them, just watching that on YouTube and going to court and looking at cases and things like that. So anyway, my cousin sent his kid to film school. I think it's a waste of money, but whatever. Hopefully there's a great career there in the future. But back to Julie. So again, why would she even care if I'm putting out information that she disagrees with? There's a ton of people who put out information that I disagree with. I don't hook into, angry tweets at them all day over 3 and 4 days. I just all right, whatever, ignore them. Go talk about whatever you want to talk about. I'm going to talk about this over here. She disagrees with what I'm saying about Felix Sater. Fine. But why does she insinuate herself into everything that I'm doing? She comes over to that Twitter Spaces that Trash Discourse and Jen Lawrence were kind enough to invite me to participate in. And a lot of people are asking me about them, telling me things about them. I'm sure they're getting the same about me. Any cautious person who's involved in any of this stuff will acknowledge that they approach a new contact with trepidation because we've all been burned. But then again, you see, this is another social engineering tactic. They don't want sensible, honest people to be able to form allies and connect with other sensible, honest people. So they want to sow this sense of distrust in people like me and anybody else, so that when I meet Trash Discourse and Jen Lawrence and they meet me, there's a lot of skepticism there. And if we start talking about things like Felix Sater, who is a lot more important than you might realize, not him individually. I don't care about him as an individual man. I'm talking about the role that he plays in this social engineering game and in this whole get Trump scenario. Now, Julie is super into taking what I say and modifying it a little bit so that she can say it's false. But what is actually false is something that I did not say. So for instance, there is this issue of a secret agreement, a previously secret agreement that is no longer secret. That's the Tesla AI computer. So everybody's making their own AI computers now. I don't know why that is, but it's interesting. You see it's got a Tesla chip there. I think that was an NVIDIA computer in the last version. But anyway, oh wow, look, heat pump, drive unit. That's a powerful thing. And then there's a Cybertruck, it's gigantic. And the robot. I kind of want one, I really do. I know people are afraid of, that one's ugly. There's other robots that people are making. I think it's gonna get to a point where the robot will be like a computer, just whichever one you have, they all basically will do essentially the same thing. Here, we go back on the High Line. But so what does she do? So we were talking about this agreement that Felix Sater signed in 1998 with Andrew Weissman, while Weissman was the supervising assistant U.S. attorney in the Eastern District of New York. Now, the real issue here is Sater says he's a military intelligence asset. He was recruited by the DIA. All right, so fine. Go to Afghanistan, buy all the missiles from the Mujahideen, find out where Russian nuclear whatever is going to North Korea, track the stingers, get Osama bin Laden's phone number. Fine, that's fine. That's military stuff. Osama bin Laden sounds like a military target to me. Jason Goodman does not. He's a guy who walks around New York City and sits in his apartment making news and opinion videos, arguably comedy if you think anything I say is funny or clever. Certainly yelling at Norm and telling him what a liar he is was pretty hilarious. I still laugh watching it. So it's a news, information, and entertainment show based on my opinions and my conclusions. I've never been in the military. My father was, but he left when I was like 1 or 1.5. I think I might have been the reason, actually, for both me and my brother. But I was thinking about that too. My father was in the Navy because there was a draft at that time for the Vietnam War. And it's been doxed a lot, so people know my father was a doctor. He's retired, of course. I'm pretty old, so my father is obviously older. And I was thinking about this. I agree that a military draft absolutely wouldn't work well today, but that in and of itself is an indictment of our society, because you see, when my father and my uncle and all of their peers were in the military, they were both in the Navy. I wonder, is that how they met? I know they met. No, that's not how they met. My uncle, he was my father's intern in the Bronx. So that was right after the Navy. But they were both in the Navy. Maybe they knew each other in the Navy. I don't remember that part of the story. But the point of the matter is, when you're drawing your military from the entire population of your country, you got a subset of everybody, every attitude, you know. And my father and my uncle, they volunteered for the Navy. That's what it was. So because they knew they were gonna be drafted for the Vietnam War, and because they were in medical school, they had a different program that they could go in because they had specialized skills that the Navy wanted. So they chose to join, you know, like that. But the point being, when everybody has to join the military, you are selecting your military from a cross-section of your population. You get everyone. When you say we're not going to do that anymore, and it's just going to be a volunteer military, well, if you're watching and you never volunteered to join the military, ask yourself, why is that? Or maybe you already know. And I'm not saying that any person who joins the military is doing it for the wrong reason, but I'm saying when you make it purely voluntary, there's going to be some subset of the volunteers who join the military because they want to go somewhere and shoot somebody and not go to jail for it. Right? I mean, I'm not saying that's the reason everybody joins, but just from my personal interactions with George's brother and Robert David Steele and Field McConnell, Patrick Bergie, General Michael Flynn, basically almost everybody I know who's been in the military, except for my father and uncle, are fucking psychopaths and have spent a considerable amount of time trying to destroy my life, actively disrupting what I do. So I hate these people, and I didn't start out hating them and decide I was going to come onto the internet and smear them the way that they're attempting to smear me. I was just doing shows about corruption and unsolved mysteries not mysteries, like unsolved crimes. Like I ran Contra. Do we really know what went on with that? And isn't it sort of like, I don't know. See, the thing that we need to focus on, because Julie's changing what I say in order to say, oh, Jason's lying. I said that Felix Sater had signed a secret agreement with Andrew Weissman that they definitely don't want to talk about. And I know about Felix Sater because I heard about him from my lawyer, who was defending me in a case where Judge Valerie Caproni was the judge. So the part of this relationship that I'm interested in is that Caproni and my attorney's client know each other. And it's not just a random coincidence where this is some innocuous business person. He's a Defense Intelligence Agency asset, and he's signed a secret agreement with the judge's apprentice. These are really unusual connections and unusually close relationships. And even stranger, the plaintiff in the case against me used to work at Twitter and seems to have been there right at the exact same time that FBI General Counsel Valerie Caproni and he, Adam Sharp, the plaintiff in the case, and the executive from Twitter, they inserted the FBI into Twitter. They played a critical role in that. Adam Sharp is very close friends and has been for a long time with Barack Obama, the guy who appointed General Flynn to be the director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, where Felix Sater is an asset. So again, I said yesterday, whatever Julie is trying to say that I'm saying against Felix Sater that is false, that there was agreement, there wasn't agreement, I said there was a secret agreement signed between Andrew Weissman and Felix Sater, and that Felix Sater worked with Lawfare and Michael Cohen to frame Donald Trump. Now, whether Felix Sater knew that he was doing that at the time that it happened or not doesn't matter. Okay, so even if, first of all, Julie says I lied and said that Felix Sater signed a secret document with Andrew Weissman to frame Donald Trump. That's not what I said. I said he signed a secret agreement with Andrew Weissman. He worked with Lawfare, and in that context, I'm talking about the Lawfare crew, Ben Wittes and his people at the Lawfare Institute, fellows from the Brookings Institution like Norm, former FBI like Andrew Weissman and Valerie Caproni. This is the Lawfare crew that I'm talking about, and Sater has admitted to me that he's worked with them. He's signed agreements with them. Julie now is saying, oh yeah, no, I was speaking about that document all along. She's reposted on her Twitter how she had that document. She was one of the first people to have the document out. I don't care. I'm not trying to be first. I'm not trying to be the expert resource on Felix Sater. I'm not in competition with her. I'm trying to figure out what the hell is going on to get all these people away from me, stop these lawsuits, get my money back, get my First and Second Amendment rights restored, and just get these people the hell away from me. So what's interesting is Julie first says, oh, Jason's lying, which she hasn't been able to point to any. That smells good. Hasn't been able to point to anything I've lied about, but she said he's lying and he won't even debate me. So I said, well, I'll debate you right now. And that was the very first day that she and I were Twitter beefing. So she eventually did send the DM. I sent her the Zoom thing. Then she said, no, I don't want Zoom. And I said, look, it's Zoom or nothing. Stop changing the parameters. She went on throughout the day complaining about what I was saying, trying to refute every single thing I was saying during the day, rather than just, why don't you calmly wait until tomorrow or Tuesday or whatever day we're going to have this debate and we can talk about everything. She wouldn't do that. She was too busy to have the debate, but she needed to proceed with counteracting anything and everything that I had put out that she had perceived as incongruent with whatever she had said about Felix Sater. And I mean, why? Why does she need to be, wouldn't you, as the author of this blog, at least be initially open to the possibility that, well, maybe there's something I missed. Let me listen to what this guy has to say, or talk to him on the phone calmly, which I've invited her to do many times, rather than going on a Twitter rant accusing me of lying and grifting. And by the way, that is like begging online for money. I'm not begging. I'm letting people know that if you like the type of videos that I make, you can become a sponsor of the show and access even more videos. There's an entire library of sponsor-exclusive content that people can get to on odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, and subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. And you'll notice that this video broadcast is interrupted far less frequently by advertising messages than anything you would watch on television, like the news on NBC or CNN. They all have ads that stop and tell you to go buy pills from Pfizer and cars from Ford and insurance and whatever. I'm not doing that. People understand that you need food and you need to buy stuff, so I try to advertise my video subscription service and encourage people to pay for this. I would also suggest that you should be extremely suspicious of someone who their source of funding is unclear. I mean, at least with CNN, you know it's coming from Pfizer and Exxon and whoever else has ads on there. But how does Julie have thousands of hours to do this? You know, she's mentioned elsewhere that she used to have a six-figure job as a project manager. Well, what kind of projects was she managing? And she left that job to be a mom, which is admirable. That's an important thing to do, particularly during the limited period of time when your children are growing up. I commend her for that. But, you know, she mentioned somewhere, I don't know if this was today or long ago, but she mentioned somewhere that her kid is 15. So I'm not going after her kid, and I never did. I didn't contact the kid. I don't think he's going to see anything I ever said. The only thing I ever said is that he's got to be an idiot if she's his mother. That's an insult against her. But what she tries to do is twist everything that gets said into an argument to derail me into something like this. And people will say, oh, Jason, ignore her. She just wants you to make a video about this. Right, and what we're going to do is we're going to talk about it so people understand it. It's not going to become the focus of the show. We're not going to make a series of videos about it. But you see, this is another social engineering tactic. When I was first starting out, almost 8 years ago, I was working with George Webb Swigert, and we got a lot of this disruption from anonymous and strange accounts, and I recognize there's a need for people. You have your job, you don't want to be online and people saying you're voting for Trump and create political problems, or you got kids and family and all kinds of reasons to be anonymous online. But I hope that people understand that there's got to be certain limits to your credibility if you're going to present yourself anonymously. And of course, Julie doesn't do that. She fills an important role for this social engineering network. And so we got to talk also about Patrick Bergie, because he got injected into this last night. Somebody I don't know, just, you know, there's a lot, there's thousands. The Twitter account, and if you're not following me on X, Twitter, it's at JG_CSTT. The Norm video and the humorous way in which I dressed him down while simultaneously laying out in just 60 seconds perhaps the most concise explanation of what is going on in that court. I think in many ways that was an almost perfect video, and I sort of don't even want to take credit for it. I mean, yes, I'm in it and I said all that stuff, but I didn't write it, I didn't plan it. He just showed up and I said all that. It was like I got struck by a bolt of lightning and all that just came out of me. And I'm even just happier to know that that information is in the world in a significant way than I am about any kind of peripheral effect that will have to benefit me, although of course I enjoy benefits to me. My point is that did something. 1.5 million people, whether I'm right or wrong, and I think I'm right, we won't know until later, but whether I'm right or wrong, 1.5 million people now have that idea in their head and can explore that idea and decide for themselves. Is there more evidence that supports what he's saying? Does this make sense in the context of the evidence that we've seen? And the thing is, it's almost universal that people do agree that that seems to be what's gone on, based on the testimony, based on what Michael Cohen has said, based on the bank records or the ledger financial records that they've got there. What I've put forward makes nothing but sense, and what they're saying is obviously nonsense. So Norm gets exposed, but the other thing that also happened down at that courthouse was this Felix Sater interview, and he's talking a lot about TWA 800. See, this is like when I had Dershowitz on the third or fourth week of the pandemic. It was like May. So if the pandemic started in March, this was like 5 weeks into the pandemic. And I had been to the first of these New York City protests where the cops came out right away and shut it down. Wait a minute now. That protest, there was this old woman who had kind of like a walker. It was kind of one of these like New York City shopping carts, right? That my grandmother had one of these. I was just like, what the hell do you need that for? They have the shopping cart there, but it's so that you can put all your groceries in there and then walk home. And so this woman had one of those kind of like shopping carts that was, I guess, maybe a walker or a shopping cart or both. And then she had signs all around it. And I was talking to her, and that's what that was. It was just a bunch of people kind of like standing around in the park and having different signs and then chatting about the different signs. Totally calm. No protester, counter-protester situation like we see all the time. People should go back and look at that video. I need to repost that. Let's think about this for a second. That was not the Dersh video. That was going to be one of the first walking around during the pandemic videos. But what happened was the police showed up, even though this was a permitted event. The police showed up and shut it down right away. They had those big loudspeakers telling everybody to leave. I didn't see Crackhead Barney there, as I recall. I didn't see Ezra Frisch there, as I recall. I didn't see that woman with the Baphomet security guard that we were calling out the other day, that woman who was menacing Laura and putting her flag in front of her face. All of that stuff should get you removed from a protest immediately, and if you refuse to move yourself, it should get you arrested. First Amendment has to do with speech, not putting flags in people's faces and making them feel intimidated about just entering a public space. You're infringing on their right to be able to just hang out and do whatever they want. So I had Dershowitz on, and I said to him, hey, is this constitutional for Andrew Cuomo to shut down the park? And Dershowitz went on this whole tear where he said, not only is it constitutional, but if they wanted to, they could force you to get vaccinated and hold you down and inject you. I mean, it was such an inflammatory and stupid thing that in retrospect, it almost seems like a hook, like a setup, right? Now, the reason I'm even talking about this is because elsewhere in that interview, Dershowitz went into some details, because I asked him a lot of questions about this letter that he had signed with Gerald Lefcourt. Maybe that was in the second interview, but I was asking him all kinds of questions about his association with Jeffrey Epstein, the whole deal with Alexander Acosta. Gerald Lefcourt is the guy who wrote a letter about what a great guy Jeffrey Epstein is, how he helped Bill Clinton start the Clinton Global Initiative, which Charles Ortel has pointed out is an absolute criminal grift, stealing money like crazy, much in the same way that General Flynn is. Come sue me, General. Sue me for defamation. You are a thief and a criminal facilitating theft through money laundering by your brother, at least. what's going on with Brisas Suaves. People say to me, why are you going after Flynn? I am not going after Flynn. He came after me. I was helping him. I sent money to his legal defense fund. I promoted him. I interviewed people about him. We had Robin Gritz on the show a million times. She worked with Flynn. She was super duper all over Flynn. But she's a social engineer and a liar and an FBI agent. I wanted to be friends with her. Tried to ignore all the things that she did for years, but it's just too clear. But anyway, Dershowitz, he revealed in that interview that he was at a dinner, maybe he said in Martha's Vineyard, he was at a dinner at the Rothschild's house, Linda Rothschild, with Bill Clinton. And Clinton got a call from Jeffrey Epstein and said to Dershowitz, hey, somebody wants to talk to you, or he introduced him to, or something like that. But he said a bunch of stuff about Bill Clinton, Jeffrey Epstein, and the Rothschilds, and a bunch of other stuff that I think he regretted later. And I've realized now that what they did was this catch and kill, exactly what we hear about in this Trump trial. Now, where did that catch and kill come from? Well, this is part of the scheme, right? Because it's got to do with that guy who testified, who's the publisher, what's his name, Bender? The guy who's the publisher for the Inquirer, he's the one talking about the catch and kill. So I'm not 100% clear on those details. Was it Michael Cohen who initiated this catch and kill operation on Trump's behalf? Or did Trump call the guy? I don't know. But the point is, catch and kill. I never heard that before this trial started. I'm not getting involved in catching and killing things. But when I think about it, that is what Dershowitz did to that interview. So in the context of the Stormy Daniels hush money fake trial that's going on, the catch and kill is happening through the Inquirer, where they pay Stormy Daniels for her story. So if she went to the Inquirer and said, hey, I had sex with Trump and I want to do an article in the Inquirer about it, give me $100,000, she might do that. You know, somebody might go to People magazine and Us magazine and the Inquirer and say, hey, we have this story, we want to give somebody an exclusive, pay my client. I think scumbag people do that all the time. And then do the tell-all book and whatever. But I mean, if it's true, you can do that. And if it's true and the person on the other end of it doesn't want it to come out, if the Inquirer offers you $100,000, maybe you could pay that person $200,000 to shut up and go away. But then what happens if somebody like me, not necessarily me, just some other independent journalist finds out about that story, separate from the person, and they're going to talk about it? Well, the catch is the paying the person with the story. The kill is eliminating the story. How do we do that? I don't know. I've never tried it, and they didn't talk about that at the trial. But one way you might do it is to, you know, Dersh leaves the interview and says, well, geez, that didn't go well. Let me call my catch and kill experts and get something going. So what does he do? He goes on to Patrick Bet-David with Robert F. Kennedy Jr., does a whole big debate, not about vaccines in general, but specifically about my video. And his producer, Mario, Patrick Bet-David's producer, Mario, I don't know if I've gone into these details before, but it's getting to the point where they need to be discussed. PBD's producer, Mario, contacts me and says, hey, it was a weird email. He's like, hey, we've secured a high-profile interview and we want to use your clip of Alan Dershowitz. And I said, like, sure. I watched Patrick Bet-David and I think he's great. Use the clip, you know, give me credit, whatever I said to him. Leave the logo in, you know, mention me, link to the thing. And they said, yeah, we'll do all that. Then what they actually did was eliminated my logo, used not just my clip of Alan Dershowitz, they used a clip that included me and my voice and my questions to him. I didn't authorize that. And some people might say, oh, well, what's the big deal, blah, blah, blah. But if you're talking about the business of licensing stock footage, which is essentially what he was doing by contacting me, he's saying, hey, and Mario's an experienced video producer from Hollywood. I think he had an 818 area code, which is, Burbank or whatever. And he told me that it's obvious from watching Patrick Bet-David's show that that's a professionally produced show, and Mario is the producer. So he's calling me because he knows if they use this clip and they don't have my approval, I can create problems for them in terms of putting it out on YouTube or maybe even suing them for using it or whatever. So by calling me and getting my approval, he's obviously trying, or at least giving the appearance of trying to do the right thing. And then as soon as the video came out, I saw that they had excised my logo, did not mention me. Even when Patrick Bet-David, you watch the video, it's still up, it's got millions and millions of views. Even when Patrick Bet-David directly cites what I'm saying, he says, oh, you were on a podcast. He didn't say you went on an interview on Crowdsource the Truth with Jason Goodman, and Jason asked you this, and then play my voice. That would be the way to do it, Patrick, you fucking thief. Instead of deceiving me and then taking the footage and using it for your purpose. Because when it played, I just started emailing Mario right away and I said, hey, you've clipped out my logo, you've given me no credit, nothing in the description as you promised. I demand that you take this down now and put it back a version with my URL in there. And he said, we can't do that. I said, I actually know that you can do that, you just don't want to. Because the way they work is, they edited that clip and they start promoting it, and there were X number of people waiting when it started, and they're trying to build the momentum of a clip that reaches, 2-3 million views or whatever it's got right now. There's a way to do that. So they wanted their clip to go viral because they have the loud bullhorn. They're Patrick Bet-David, and everybody's going to watch that. And who the hell is this guy who we don't even know his name and can't see his logo? And we're also going to crush Crowdsource the Truth 4 and 5, or whatever I was up to at that point. So there's this coordination that seems to involve George's brother, people like Dersh, shitheads like Patrick Bet-David, even RFK Jr. I don't trust him anymore. And I don't care if he sees this. I'd like him to see this because he knows what he did. His lawyers could have easily said, yes, this is important information coming from Jason. We should allow him to intervene instead of what they did, which was preventing me from intervening and behaving like unprofessional assholes, Scott Street. Who's that? Anyway. So Bergie gets involved. And the thing that happened is somebody says, hey, Jason, you should interview Patrick Bergie. I don't know who that was. And I didn't want to interview Patrick Bergie because I think he's also a social engineer and a dunce and a liar. See, I encountered Patrick Bergie like 5 years ago. I just saw him on Twitter. And it's a little weird, actually, that I was kind of like, hey, how come nobody's interviewing this guy? And in retrospect, it might be because they could have used any number of techniques to put that Patrick Bergie tweet in front of me at the time that it arrived to get me to do it. What are you talking about, Jason? Well, what did I just say? Somebody who I don't know on Twitter, and I'm not accusing this person of anything. I'm just pointing out how this social engineering tactic works because it's kind of perfect. It very well may have been a well-meaning, honest person using an anonymous Twitter account to just say, hey, you should interview Patrick Bergie. They might have said that because, as I recall, and those interviews are still there with Patrick Bergie on Odyssey. People are able to see those for free if they subscribe to odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth. But to recollection, Bergie, he was like the 40 or 41-year-old private. So he joined the Army like at the last possible age where there's a cutoff there. So he's already an outlier from that standpoint. Why did he do that? I don't remember his reason. But he told us that he got involved in IIA, which I recall was interactive internet activity, and that they had created through Jim Jones, who I think is also a general, or was, that they had created a social engineering software tool set called, I think, ShadowNet, right? And then Millie Weaver did a documentary that he and some other people were the subject of called ShadowGate. And I remember I already didn't trust Patrick by that time, so I don't know Millie Weaver. I met her once in 2000, maybe 16 or 17. I met her at the Deplorable. She was very nice. Millie was polite. I think she's very intelligent and does good reporting. She's a mom, beautiful family, beautiful young woman. I got no beef with Millie Weaver, but when she was doing these videos with Patrick Bergie, I just haven't ever really communicated with her. I don't know what her deal is at all. I'm not accusing her of anything either, but I just don't trust Patrick Bergie. And there was, I don't remember, again, the details. This is all stuff that happened years ago. And we could go back and check it and straighten out what was going on. But I do remember I had one sort of last interaction with Bergie, and he said yesterday that it involved me recording that phone call and playing in the show. That's very possible. I mean, people see me do that frequently. He thinks it's slimy. Well, okay, think whatever you want. It's legal because New York is a single-party consent state. And if you don't like the notion that someone's going to record something shitty that you say to them on the phone, maybe don't say it. But Patrick Bergie is a liar. And the tweet that I put out relative to Bergie yesterday was pretty innocuous. It was in response to this person saying, oh, have Patrick Bergie on the show. I basically just said, people are suggesting that I interview him. I've already had him on the show. Here are the interviews. I didn't say he's a lying piece of shit and a moron, which I do believe. I could have said that. I didn't say, hey, Patrick, let's do another interview. I just said, here are the interviews so that people who are interested in that historical context can go for free to odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth and watch these videos with Patrick Bergie and form your own conclusions. But he was basically telling us that this shadow net was a tool that allowed basically what we're seeing right now. They could censor information and control the narrative and interact with people on social media sites. This was deployed, as I recall, in Iraq and Afghanistan. And the beef that Bergie had was that General Jim Jones had taken ownership of the software that was developed using military funds and taxpayer funds, and that this was now a component of a private company that he was running. And I forget the name of the private company. But again, it's all in those videos. So I'm just telling people, hey, go back. I can't remember everything, but those videos are there. And I've said it a million times. Part of the reason why they're so persistently trying to destroy Crowdsource the Truth is to prevent me from being able to say, I didn't say that. Go back to 5 years ago, look at this video, and you'll see what I actually said, right? I never said that Felix Sater signed an agreement with Andrew Weissman that said, I'm gonna set up Trump. That's idiotic. And of course I didn't say that. I'm saying he signed a secret agreement with Felix Sater, and then he signed a second agreement with Felix Sater in 2017. And she was saying, no, he didn't, it doesn't exist. Yes, it does, it's another thing over here. Yesterday she said that I was George Webb's brother. So this woman is just pumping out constantly contradictory information, confusing information, stupid nonsense. Why? Why is she doing that? And go listen to it, absorb it all. I'm not telling you don't listen to her. I told her, I'll have a debate with you. See, the other reason we know this is such a serious catastrophe for them, that now Ben Wittes is exposed and Norm Eisen is exposed. You see, I think what they are concerned about is, to a certain extent, they want to, they're trying to trick Donald Trump's attorneys. And obviously they don't want them to know all these things. And if I know it, okay, whatever. But if I put it out in a video like that, that is incredibly effective and attracts people's attention to the extent that 1.5 million people see it, I think they know that it increases the likelihood that perhaps Donald Trump's attorneys might see it. Somebody in Congress might see it. I bet that's already happened. So they just don't know what that might mean, but it's obviously not what they want. So they're upset, and they're upset with me, and so this is why I think Flynn unblocked me, because that doesn't make sense. Why does he have to do that? He's an internationally known guy making tons of money with his movie and his nonprofit grifts and all this stuff that he's doing. Why does he even care about Jason Goodman at all? Flynn is hanging out with the former president of the United States. He's a big social media influencer with a 1.5 million follower Twitter account. Why did he unblock me to make a comment on a video where Andrew Weissman says he doesn't know Felix Sater, and he's lying? Weissman is lying, okay? Just like Norm Eisen is lying, just like Ben Wittes is lying, because these guys are treacherous liars. So I believe that the reason that Flynn did that is because Felix Sater is incredibly dangerous to them. Not the man, but the situation, what they've done with him, the fact that this military asset has been utilized by civilian law enforcement, and now here in this corrupt cabal of former FBI General Counsel Valerie Caproni, military asset Felix Sater, who seems to be in constant communication from 1998 till at least 2017 with Andrew Weissman. Why are they using that guy in a civilian case? How did Snyder come to get to me? I mean, I know how he did from my end of that equation. I'm talking about from their end of the equation. Because what did Jared and Elizabeth Beck have to do? Like, you know, again, George Webb introduced me to them, okay? So Julie has all these fake accounts that are commenting and defending her. Remember, she said to me on that Twitter Spaces that she defends Michael Flynn. Well, we're talking about Felix Sater. Who the hell told you to bring up Michael Flynn? What does that have to do with what we're talking about? So she blocked me. This is such a cowardly move. She blocked me, and then she carries on, you know, continuing to disparage me here on Twitter. Let's see what we've got. So this is the tweet that Flynn responded to, where he's saying he had blocked Jason for a long time for his own reasons, but I am for exposing the truth. This issue is vital, as it is his street. So he's talking there about a months-old video, and I don't know why he would repost that, but he seems very interested in Felix Sater. So this is the other issue. I'm not going after Flynn. We've got these 990s from the IRS that show that Patrick Byrne got paid. So they're saying he's working there 40 hours a week. He's getting $65,000. I don't believe that. I don't think he's there 40 hours a week. And Joe Flynn is only doing 30 hours a week. Then he's paid through Brisas Suaves LLC $158,625. Now, Joe Flynn, he's Michael Flynn's brother. So if you don't know why this is happening, you know, people are saying things to me like, oh, why do you care? Why are you going after Flynn? This could be helping him. What if his brother is stealing money from him and he doesn't know it, and he could be getting jammed up to go to jail? I'm not saying that's what's happening, but that could be happening. If you were an internationally recognized internet influencer and someone who was talking about running for president of the United States, and someone identified these kind of financial anomalies in a nonprofit organization that you're directly involved in, that you promote and your brother is the director of. By the way, we didn't even go into the fact that his house is the, you know, registered as the, you know, the main office for the thing, and PO boxes. I mean, these are the kinds of things that if we had proper law enforcement and if the IRS were to investigate something like this, they'd investigate that, because you see, a real multi-million-dollar charity would have an office, an administrative office. Their board of directors would consist only of disinterested parties, meaning not your brother and not your best buddy, and not paying the people who are giving $3 million to it. All of this stuff is way outside the laws of how these nonprofits need to be operated. And so even if Flynn doesn't know, everyone's like, oh, you're a baby. You don't like his answer. Go cry harder. You know, why are you attacking MAGA? Julie even says, oh, look, here's Jason. He's coming and attacking, you know, a Trump supporter. So it's like, wait, what? What is she saying here? Oh, here's Bergie. Sorry, Bergie. So what Bergie did was, yeah, I mean, he's another one who I just put that series of videos up there, or I put that tweet because I'm trying to be polite to the person who asked the question. Somebody says, oh, you should interview Bergie. And I just said, well, you know, I don't want to get into telling this person that Bergie is an idiot and a liar and a social engineer. So I just say, I already interviewed Bergie several years ago. Here they are. If anything, you read that original tweet, I'm sort of promoting him. And even if he doesn't want to be promoted by me, why interact with the tweet at all? If somebody that I don't like says something innocuous, I'll leave it alone. Not everybody's going to behave the way that I behave, and that can't be a reasonable expectation. I'm just saying, it's interesting to observe how these occurrences happen again and again. It seems like they are all behaving in the same way. That doesn't make a lot of sense, because I'll tell you what, whatever happened between me and Bergie 5 years ago, when I put that tweet out, I didn't even remember it very well, which is why I didn't go into details. Part of the reason why. I remembered I didn't have a favorable impression of him, but I was almost at the point where I was saying, you know what, let's just put this out. People can see it. I don't have beef currently with Bergie. We just leave it there. But he wanted to pick the scab and get back into it. And not only that, he went on and on. He went into a tweet about Julie. So here, Julie, she doxed me. She put out a tweet. I sent her a text telling her, you better retract. You need to cease and desist publishing falsehoods about me, or you will be sued into homelessness. Go ahead and test me if you like. Now, so she doxed me, and people gave her a lot of crap about that. So she reposted the thing with my phone number crossed out. Now, look, I've been doxed all over the place. That phone number is in legal documents and whatever. So I'm not like fearing for my safety, but that's still a malicious act that she did with the intent to harm me. She's not giving my phone number to an interview subject to try to help me out, and it accidentally got tweeted. She's deliberately putting my phone number in there to try to intimidate me, along with her message that she thinks that I'm probably going to try to get her fired from her beer store job. Because I've come to the conclusion that it's extremely likely that Julie works for the Flynn Intel Group, or is a contractor to the Flynn Intel Group, or something very similar, because it doesn't make sense to me that a person with her skill set and need for money would sit around at a beer store, and that would be her only job, particularly when she's telling us she had a six-figure job previously. Why not make this blog into something you can earn money from? You know, someone who is smart enough to land a six-figure job in the past maybe is industrious and smart, and through Substack and, you know, all these different things that people use to make money as independent bloggers, writers, journalists, whatever she considers herself. Why not do that? Why spend all these thousands of hours to give your valuable work away for free? Oh, because she's a patriot. So why did you select Felix Sater? Why not Julian Assange? Why not Ross Ulbricht? Aren't these guys also getting shafted by the system? I mean, Ross Ulbricht turned 40 in jail, and he's been there 11 years. His mother is a saint. I've met her. It's terrible what's happened. So how did she select Felix Sater? Why is she so interested in Felix Sater? She made this weird comment on the live stream that her husband would never allow her to meet Felix Sater. I mean, is she secretly in love with him? I don't know what's going on. But it was strange that, see, that tweet that I put out about, hey, I've previously interviewed Bergie, he went and started insulting me and complaining about all kinds of things, not on that tweet, but on the tweet about Julie. And he starts saying, oh, Jason, you know, you do all kinds of crappy stuff, yelling at the cops, yelling at people riding electric bicycles on the sidewalk, which is against the law and dangerous to everyone. That's crappy stuff, according to Bergie. And what was so interesting about that is I forgot that Patrick Bergie was a person before somebody texted me or, you know, sent the Twitter whatever comment or DM or whatever. I think it was just a comment on Twitter. I had totally forgotten about that guy. I don't think I've watched a single thing having to do with him since that last interaction we had. But he obviously has watched a lot of my videos and knows what I'm doing, so why is that? Is that because I just randomly promoted videos that he was in from 5 years ago, so he sat down and went through enough videos to see all that different activity? All that different activity? Shut the fuck up, dude. Did he manage to see all of that activity in the less than an hour or whatever it was that he commented on me posting these videos? It doesn't seem possible. You know, I guess he must have seen the Norm video, or I don't even know if he saw that. But he's just talking about a sort of a span of things that if you just, people see the format I'm doing here. Even if I do, like, okay, you could say, oh, you yelled at a homeless guy. Well, what did it take, an hour to get to that? How does Bergie know that, what I'm doing in my videos? It almost seems like he's monitoring me, like George is mentally ill, truly psychotic, sick fucking brother, who genius researcher Julie Lewis thought I was one of their brothers. I mean, she's such a clown. By the way, that type of mistake is so egregious, I think it at least merits going back over anything and everything she's ever reported. But the other thing that was happening is there was a lot of sort of like unknown mystery accounts telling me, oh, you have to watch Flynn's movie and you have to watch this Twitter Spaces with Felix Sater. Notice Felix Sater is not the kind of guy, you know, like Charles Ortel, if a reasonable person contacts him and says, hey, I want to have you on a podcast because we're talking about nonprofit, this or that, he'll talk to anybody. I mean, not fools and morons and people who want to deceive him, but any reasonable person who contacts him with reasonable questions, he will talk to because he's got nothing to hide. Felix, he doesn't want to do that. He says he'll meet me in the park for a conversation, then the first thing he says is that he can't talk to me and we'll do something on Friday. I don't think they wanted to have that conversation, and his lawyer looked pretty nervous throughout it. Oh, did I fail to mention this? There's going to be no show with Charles today because he's traveling. Sorry, I meant to say that at the top of the thing. I got a lot of stuff on my mind, and it's tough to keep it straight sometimes, but it doesn't make a lot of sense to me that all these people seem to be watching everything that I'm doing, even though they say they don't care about me, they don't like me, they don't like what I'm talking about, they think I'm lying. Why are they watching all the time? There's a lot of people who talk about things on the internet that don't interest me and that I don't think are true. I don't watch every single thing they do and comment on it and try to convince people to stop watching it. Go watch whatever you want. In fact, I usually encourage people to watch it. I might say consider this or that while you're watching, but, you know, go watch everything Julie has done. Wow, look at this. This is where I used to come to buy birthday cakes for the employees of 21st Century 3D. I used to love this bakery, Diaudo. Look at this. Look at this. It's like Mogadishu.
By the same people, that's all the fuck didn't do to them.
It's terrible. Just terrible. So I told Julie I'm going to sue her if she doesn't retract these false statements and issue a public apology, including a statement that she made all this up just to be malicious. She was putting out the stupid Mario World information, saying that Jason is a port of Charleston hoaxer. So that right there is defamatory. I was not involved in planning or executing a bomb hoax. Stupid George came on okay, so here's the other important thing. So yesterday, in the chat, we had George's asshole fucking mentally ill brother. I guess he's too busy getting his wife fucked by George. Sorry, he must have taken time out of that schedule to come and comment on the video. But what was he saying? He's focused on Okie Marshall Richards. He's trying to convince everyone that Jason worked with an FBI informant and that Jason knew that. Well, it's true that he was an FBI informant, but I didn't know that at any time while I was working with him. I found that out after George's brother revealed that. There was or maybe it was Susan Holmes, but I first saw that on George's brother. George's brother used to have a YouTube channel where he would put out videos trolling me every day, sometimes 5 times a day. I'm not doing that. People say, oh, you're doing it to Flynn right now. No. First of all, he's a national figure. Second of all, he did something significant this week to me. I didn't tell him to unblock me. He did that on his own. I didn't tell his stupid brother to call me a scumbag on Twitter when I made a comment about Stephen Biss, who has spent 6 or 7 years before he had a stroke trying to ruin my life. If you were being attacked by someone on the street and they had their hands around your neck and their grip was getting tighter to the extent that you thought to yourself, wow, if this continues, I will surely die. And then that person had a stroke and fell to the ground and you were saved. Wouldn't you be happy about that? So I wasn't even really reveling in it. I just said, this is kind of a cautionary moment for people. If you spend your entire life lying to destroy other people, you make yourself toxic. I was talking about Stephen Biss, and this is also weird along the lines of what Julie is doing and what Patrick Bergie is doing. Out of nowhere, Joe Flynn comes onto Twitter and says, you're a scumbag, Jason. So then I called him. People have heard that call with Joe Flynn. And what did Joe Flynn say? He said, Peter Smith is bullshit. Everything I've been saying about Peter Smith is bullshit. Why would he bring that up? Isn't that weird? Do you even know who Peter Smith is? People who are longtime viewers of Crowdsource the Truth will know. But Peter Smith is the guy that they're talking about in the email that Ben Wittes sends to James Comey on December 28th, 2016. Why does Joe Flynn care about that guy? And what does he know about it to say that anything that I've said about Peter Smith is bullshit? By the way, that's the same message Chris Boozy had when I was asking Ben Wittes about Peter Smith. They hate questions about Peter Smith because this is the heart of Russiagate, of this, incarcerate Trump effort. I don't know if there's anybody out there who's closer to this than me, and I'm not boasting about that. I'm just wondering, I'm observing. But so Joe Flynn comes out of nowhere, says all this shit. He then stays on the phone with me for 12 minutes, mentions Peter Smith, says it's bullshit. And the one thing that Flynn did answer was he said he's never spoken to Peter Smith. Well, that's good. That's what I suspected. I don't know if it's true, though. And if he had spoken to Peter Smith, he might have lots of motives to hide that. Again, this is a mystery. I don't claim to know the truth. I'm looking for the truth. And when people like Julie show up and say I'm lying, what am I lying about? She can't even tell you that. So they want all these vague messages that say Jason is lying. We've got this Dawson's Creek is making comments that I'm somehow doing something for Hillary. That's idiotic. I'm saying, look, you make whatever comment you want to make, but I'm not going to engage with these anonymous troll accounts that throw out nonsense, provide no evidence, don't tell us who they are. We don't know what their motives are. And look, to the extent that Julie uses her real name and shows her face on the internet or whatever, she's still not very open. She wasn't answering the phone. I was calling her not to harass her. See, what people don't understand is even if you receive a phone call that you don't like, if it has a legitimate purpose, it is not harassment. Almost every state, forgive me, the limited number of states that I've looked into as far as their harassment statutes go, It's when you're calling the person with no legitimate purpose. If I call her up to tell her she needs to cease and desist from publishing lies about me or I'm going to sue her, I have a legitimate purpose for that phone call. So she didn't answer. I think I called her once, maybe twice. No answer. So I texted her that text message that I just showed you. What's the purpose in sharing that with everyone? You know, that might not be from a lawyer on legal letterhead, but it is a notification. Certain states require you to notify the person before you bring a lawsuit. Others don't. It's certainly at least, you know, good practice to inform the person. Maybe she didn't know, but I'm telling her outright, this is false. And so George's brother came into the comments yesterday and he was saying Jason's working with an FBI informant, Jason, everything with the Port of Charleston. So this is another important social engineering technique that I hope that people will pick up on, is that they spend a lot of time building the initial narrative. In the case of Donald Trump, it's Russia. Russia hacked, Russia helped him win, everything with Russia. In the case of me, it's the Port of Charleston. Now, in both of those cases, the mission failed, the initial plan failed, and everything that they've been doing since then is an improvised rewrite of the script, and it's just going terribly. So just like Julie yesterday was pushing the false narrative that Jason caused the Port of Charleston bomb hoax, going as far as saying I'm the guy who did that, which is defamatory, absolutely, and she did not retract it or apologize yesterday, so she's going to be sued for that. Not tomorrow, not next week. As criminal asshole Barack Obama used to say, it will be in a time and place of my choosing. But that girl's got a lawsuit coming, and I think it's going to be a real big financial problem for her. I tried to help her avoid it by telling her to retract. Now, I obviously can't file it today or tomorrow. So if she takes advantage of the long weekend to publicly apologize and on her Twitter account say that she made all that crap up and got it from George's brother, then I won't sue her. But as of right now, she's on the fast track to a gigantic legal problem. And I see a coordinated effort where George's brother is coming into the comments saying, ooh, everybody needs to ask Jason questions. He's asking Flynn questions and saying Flynn is a criminal and a liar because he won't answer. No, I'm saying he's a criminal because he's laundering money. I'm saying he's a liar because he's fooling people into laundering money. And I'm just saying any sensible person should look at this fact pattern and say, you know what, even if Flynn legitimately doesn't know the answer to the question of why was his brother Joe paid 3 times as much as Patrick Byrne for doing less work, why was Joe paid through an LLC that seems to have been created just for this purpose and has no experience whatsoever auditing anything or being involved in election integrity, anything? Seems like he made the LLC to get paid. Why are all these weird payments happening? This is a public charity. This is a nonprofit. This is not their private family business where they can decide to do this or that. These are public funds. So even if he doesn't know, he should say, I didn't know that. This is an incredibly important question, Jason. I'm going to look into this and get back to you. Not F you, watch the movie, and I'm blocking you again. You can't be a real person, or you can't be a thinking person and look at that and think that that is normal. But that's what we're dealing with. So we got a lot of social engineering going on, you know, and oh yeah, this is what I wanted to say. So Julie, she's saying, oh, Jason's probably gonna come to my work. This is great. I expect that he'll come to where I work and do this and that. I'm not gonna go to Ohio. This person is an inconsequential dope. Who is that? Is that the Dawson's Creek guy? Yeah. So he's saying Andrew and Loretta Lynch teamed up with Sater and Trump to defeat the bad guys. I don't believe that. And why are we talking about Loretta Lynch? Yeah, sure, she was in the Eastern District as well, but how come nobody here will talk about Valerie Caproni? Remember, Felix Sater and his attorney both said Valerie Caproni had nothing to do with the case. I put it right on Twitter, the letter to her, to get the case away from her. How could they not know that. They have to be lying. How could they not know such a significant aspect of the case? And if they're not lying, why did they block me like that? Why are they, Felix blocked me, they all blocked me. All these people are coming at me. Dawson's Creek wants you to think I'm doing something with Hillary Clinton. It's absurd. But so she's saying that she expects that I'm gonna come to her work and yell at the guy. She doesn't care what I say. Here she's doxing me, and she says that she expects that I'm gonna come to her work at the beer store and try to get her fired from the beer store. I'm not gonna do that. That's what they do. They try to get channels shut down. Okay, here's another thing. I haven't done a single thing, and would not, to Julie's son. He's an innocent kid. I would never do anything to him. I'm insulting her by saying there's no way she could have any offspring that's not a moron. But the point is, I'm not trying. We heard in the P. Diddy lawsuit, somebody was calling up an 8-year-old kid and threatening the kid and making her cry on the phone. That's obviously psychotic. I would never do that. Equally psychotic is sending letters to a retired octogenarian, my father and mother. These are old people who have a lot of health issues and a lot of discomfort, and this fucking psycho is sending them letters and telling my father he's going to sue my father. My father doesn't have anything to do at all with this show, other than 52 years ago impregnating my mother and having me as his son. Guy's got nothing to do with anything here. Sweigert's writing letters to the Department of Health, trying to find records on my father from the Navy. That's psychotic stalking. Just telling an asshole on Twitter who won't relent, who advertises that she has a son, that the son is probably an idiot, that's an insult, okay? So they do that kind of stuff. Why would I try to get her fired from a beer store? I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna get her dragged into a legal case that's gonna get her thrown in jail. Her son's 18th birthday, he's gonna have to come visit her and have a cake while she's behind a piece of glass talking to him on the phone. That's the program you're on, Julie. Retract the lies, okay? Or I don't care. I got all these lawsuits happening anyway. Getting you into it, easy peasy, okay? So have a nice Memorial Day, everyone. We're gonna have a wonderful Web of Deception video tonight with John Cullen at 7:30. So get onto odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth. Web of Deception is a sponsor exclusive. People who are sponsors on odyssey.com and on Substack and on subscribestar.com and patreon.com can enjoy that show. We'll be on tonight at 7:30. Oh, this guy's showing up for work. He's gonna just lie down on the sidewalk over there and lay there with a cup out for the rest of the afternoon. But thanks for tuning in, everyone. Happy Memorial Day. Oh, right. And Julie made a point. This is what I'll leave everybody with. Julie made a point of saying, when you do come to the beer store, speak to the proprietor nicely. He's a Vietnam veteran. So what is that? She's telling me, this is social engineering, planting that idea. She doesn't know me, so she thinks that I'll react and respond to that and go do what she's telling me to do. I never would. Even if it was in New Jersey, I wouldn't go. But I'm certainly not going all the way to Ohio to deal with this loser, and I would never antagonize this guy. But she makes a point of saying he's a Vietnam veteran. Why is that? Why is that? Because you see now, instead of the lawyer end of this deal, we're dealing with the military end of this deal. General Flynn. Everywhere he goes, people are super deferential to him because he's a veteran. So they're gonna cook up a plan, and also Bergie is a veteran. So all I'm saying is, I like military people like my father and my uncle and all the brave people who have stood up for our rights and fought for this country and done the right thing. What I don't like are the lying psychopaths in the military who go there to get a security clearance so that they can then keep that security clearance and get some kind of military contractor job to drive us all towards more wars, or to use 5th generational warfare weapons like interactive internet activity and lawfare and all this kind of crap that they're using. I don't like those people. Okay, so that's what they think of. Oh, tell everybody the guy's a veteran, make Goodman look like a heel. These people are liars. Retract your lies, Julie, or you are going to be met with legal devastation that you cannot contemplate right now. Why are you doing this? Simple choice. Thanks for watching.